What's up, everybody? Welcome to a special episode of Modern Lending Podcast Live. Man, we're going to have some fun today. A lot of you know, because you've been seeing on social media, that we're bringing on the CEO, founder, one of the greatest mortgage bankers alive, Anthony Hseih. And so, without further ado, we're going to find out what this guy's doing in this business, how to get into it, and where we're going in the next decade or so. So let's bring on Anthony Hseih. Oh, here we are. Guys, this is going to be fun. Hey, Mikey, click the next. There it is. Where's the camera? Ladies and gentlemen, Anthony Hseih in the flesh. I told you it'd be a surprise. I told you it was worth waiting for. Thank you guys for joining us. We are live on LinkedIn. We are live on Facebook. We are live on YouTube. And the comments are already coming in. Mikey, what do we got up there so far? Yeah, people are going, woohoo. You got to wear the headset. Or else he can't hear.
Look official.
Yeah, you got to look all official. Crazy times in mortgage banking right now.
Is this right?
Yeah, you're rocking. Just bring that up and
all right.
Thanks for coming. Hanging out. This is fun.
This is great. It's great. Crazy times in the world, actually.
Well, we've got, the Quicken IPO in the news yesterday. I mean, it's wild right now.
Yeah.
But here's what I want to go on this, Anthony. And so thank you for your time. And there's a lot of people listening that don't know your story very well. And your story on how you got into mortgage banking is fascinating. And you've done very unique things in your career since you got into this world. And so I want to ask you first and foremost, how'd you get sucked into mortgage banking?
I think the same way that all of us do, which is by mistake, right?
So good.
So that's what happened to me fresh out of school. And actually, it was a buddy that I was playing baseball with.
Really?
Yeah. I wasn't good enough to play beyond high school. So I had to find a little, nighttime league. And, this buddy of mine said, "Hey, I got a job. I said, "Oh, really? Who hired you?" And I said, "What do you do?" And he said, "Well, I lend money for a living." And I said, "You don't have any money." He says, No. I loan other people's money." And then he said, "Well, they're actually hiring. So why don't you come in for an interview?" And I was installing stereos at the time.
Where is this? Southern California?
This is in Westminster. Excuse me, Garden Grove.
And you were selling stereos before that?
I was installing stereos. I was installing and selling stereos at the time. And I went in for an interview. They hired me on the spot. And you guys will appreciate this as being commission salespeople. So when they hired me, I had to write them a check for my first month desk rental fee. I had to pay them for my business cards, and I had to pay them for advanced use of the Xerox machine. So I walked out happy.
Do you remember how much? It was?
I don't, but I remember walked out so happy because somebody hired me, but I didn't feel right because I had to write them a check.
No, it's still gonna feel a little weird.
That was the start of this very dysfunctional industry that we've been so fortunately a part of, right?
So were you a salesperson, just loan officer?
Just straight loan officer. And then the very next year, I had a manual transmission Acura. I put 95,000 miles on my Acura that year, driving to real estate offices. And, one of the biggest office, and some of you will remember, I remember having this conversation, one of the biggest offices in Cerritos, California. It was the Wise Old Owl office in Cerritos. That was City Hall. That was City Hall. I was trying to get through City Hall.
But see, I love it. People forget that you drove around and went to real estate offices.
Yeah, man. You got to do what you have to do.
Did you have a pitch?
I'm still doing that today.
Did you have a fair? Did you have like your favorite pitch or your go-to line?
Yeah, donuts.
Donuts. By the way, this hasn't changed. Like donuts still win everything.
Donuts. Yeah. I love how I tape my business card to those pink boxes. And then the receptionist, as soon as I leave, I see her taking my business cards off the boxes.
Yes, of course.
But
Thank you.
yeah, those are all great stories.
So how long did you play that for? How long did you drive around for? How many years were you a loan officer in that space?
10 plus years. Long time.
And then what happened?
And then we got into the the 92, 93 market where refis came, and then the market crashed. I remember saying, stay alive till 95.
So good. Just a rallying cry to get through it all.
Yeah. But, this industry is great because what we do doesn't go out of style.
No.
We fuel the American dream, and through the different cycles that I've been fortunate to see and witness, it's the best country in the world, man. It's Americans are amazing people. You're seeing it right now, how strong the housing market is, and we are absolutely resilient people.
So what pushed you to start your first company?
There's a lot of dirty acts in our business in the 80s. Kickbacks were pretty norm.
Yeah.
And the value delivery system didn't align with my own. Being a son of an immigrant and seeing firsthand how uneducated consumers, such as my parents, are fully taken advantage of because of their lack of financial IQ.
Yeah.
And back then in the 80s, not to say everyone, but there was certainly enough where the value was driven to the relationship to the realtor rather than the value driven to the consumer. And this is the Wild Wild West, where there was no disclosure, there's no licensing. You do exactly what you wanted to do.
Yep.
I just decided, I'm going to try to create a model where value was delivered directly to the consumer. So I started doing that before the law dictated that. So we were a step ahead of it. And then with loanDepot, we were ahead of it on the technology side.
Yeah.
Right. So 20 years or 25 years ago, we were trying to deliver value to the consumer through an honest product. And then a product that, my parents or my uncle can grab without any sort of VIP deal. Right.
Yeah.
And then at loanDepot, more so, which is the continuation of the technology build out.
I mean, I don't know if this is true or not, but it's from my perspective, it feels like you were one of the first direct to consumer national platforms that ever existed.
Yeah. We brought online locks, online document review, an online portal. In my mind's eye, it was 2000. We did that.
Yeah.
We did that pretty early on. Yeah.
And now we're here.
Now we're here in this crazy situation that we're in world history, right? And this is no longer just an industry transition. This is a world transition. We have 1.2 million square feet real estate. I was just talking at a breakfast meeting. I mean, yes, contractually, we are obligated to continue to occupy 1.2 million square feet, however many square feet that we have, right, throughout the country, right. We house over 8,000 full-time bodies, right?
Yeah.
We have 1,000 full-time contractors. We have 7,300 full-time employees.
Yeah.
What does the new normal look like? Do we shave 50% of that real estate? Do we shave 10% of that real estate? Mechanically, I don't think anybody knows. And that's what's creating the grumpiness.
I understand.
Because you have to grind to that answer.
Yeah.
You can't just pick a number and say, hey, we're going to get rid of 50% of our real estate. You can't. You have to just wait and see. And that wait and see for somebody with my personality, it's just it's horrible because I'm not trained to be a health professional.
Yeah.
But yet I have to take in as much data about this health crisis as I possibly can because it's directly related to our business.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, Anthony. Pre great, recession, mortgage crisis, there was dominant mortgage players that owned significant market share. And it looks like 12 years later, we're still in a really fragmented place in the industry. Do you see that as just a symptom of the previous mortgage cycle that crashed? Do you see that changing? And we were talking about this before we went live. The Quicken IPO is one of the first mortgage IPOs I've seen in, it feels like forever.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd love your take on that from your perspective.
Well, I have lots of perspectives on it. First of all, my phone is blown up from every investment banker there is alive saying, when's loanDepot going IPO? And here's what's interesting, right? I mean, it's a place and time for everything, right? Yeah. We position ourselves for an IPO in 2015.
Yeah, people don't remember that.
Yeah, people don't remember that. We went on a full roadshow November 2015.
Yep.
And at the end of the roadshow, I remember sitting in Morgan Stanley's office on the whatever top floor, and there was celebration ready to go. I mean, all kinds of fancy food. Gosh. I mean, it felt like a last meal for crying out loud. But we made the decision at that point in time, given the fact that there was some negative momentum in the marketplace, and that we were going to be priced at the low end of our range.
Yeah.
I just decided it was not the right thing to do. And now looking back at it, that was the absolute right decision. And I remember the momentum that we generated during that time with this fintech movement, right? That our number one competitor was saying that there's no way that they would ever go public because it's the wrong business alignment.
Mm-hmm.
And now, fast forward 5 years later, I've taken on that position. There's no way we would go public, and then now they're on the verge of going public.
Yeah.
So I think everybody just needs to understand that an IPO makes sense, and I'm saying this from my own opinion. Yeah. I think it makes sense for Quicken's management team, and it particularly makes sense for Daniel Gilbert.
Sure.
With some of his current health challenges. And the fact that, he's getting into the years where he needs to do some estate planning, having the proper liquidity and having the right valuation for existing shareholders for exit process, as well as creating additional capital for Quicken to continue to grow. Quicken is in a great position. And I believe that this particular IPO is not only good for Quicken, but it's very good for our industry.
I have the same feeling. Why do you say that? Just because it's gonna. Why do you say that?
Because when it's good for Coke, it's good for Pepsi.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the way it goes. And also understand that the more regulation there is, the more of a equal playing field it creates for all competitors in this free enterprise system. In the 70s and 80s and even 90s, pre Dodd-Frank, there's a lot more of the Wild Wild West, right?
Yeah.
You had super successful companies such as Countrywide, and then you had a super successful company such as AmeriQuest.
Mm-hmm.
And they were not Coke and Pepsi.
No.
They were like Coke and 7-Up, right? It was very, very, very different, right? But now we're starting to come together, and you're seeing the market get right, meaning that the bigger players are starting to mount market share.
Yeah.
Right. And the largest, there's 3 or 4 large independents these days.
Yeah.
Ourselves and Quicken being retail focused. You have lots of other large scale companies that are a little bit of correspondent, a little bit of wholesale. And then you have, United Mortgage, who is pretty dominant in wholesale.
Yep.
So you're starting to see, fairly early stages of this post Dodd-Frank market, which is 12 years now.
Yeah. It seems like a long time.
Right. So you're starting to see that come together. And I expect players that are well established today, unless they make a fatal error, they're going to continue to expand market share.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like going public would give a lot of capital to them to try to capitalize on this next booming. I mean, didn't the Fed come out and say we're going to keep rates down for 2022? I mean, they basically paved the path and said this is what to expect.
Yeah, the Quicken deal is going to be massive.
Yeah,
it's going to be not only one of the, if probably the largest IPO this year, it could be one of the largest IPOs ever. It's going to be massive. It's going to be good for our industry. It's going to bring lots of attention, lots of press, and it's going to give legitimacy to our industry. Our industry needs legitimacy.
So you've said that a lot. I've heard you continuing to be to echo that message, because even when I started in the business in 2003, and I followed my dad into the game, I still kind of felt like, wow, everyone thinks I'm kind of a car salesman. This is weird. I didn't think that. And then the crisis compounded, and now I was like, oh, now I'm a piece of garbage. And you've been a proponent of, the mortgage industry right now is going to be doing incredible things for the entire world economy almost.
Well, we have. I mean, we absolutely have. The fact that the fact that we just expanded during a time of crisis, right? If you look at what's happening and how much we muscled up as an industry, right? We are now funding hundreds of billions of home loans each and every month. And we either are putting homeowners into their new homes, or we're shaving their monthly payments. And every loan that we do as an industry is with our love and care.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work still. Yeah. Yes, we have better tools, we have better technology, we have automated underwriting, we have digital documentation. Yes. But it ain't easy.
It's still a heavy lift.
It's still, a lot of orchestration, still a lot of making sure that everything's collaborated. So I feel real good about what the industry is doing.
Yeah.
And and for the most part, and for the majority, the industry is now providing an honest, valuable product. And we should all keep our chin high because of that.
What do you want for loanDepot? I mean, I'm sure when you started it, it's almost one of those things, you never know where it's going to go. It starts to take its own life on, it starts to evolve. You're kind of managing the whole thing. What do you want for this company?
Well, I'll tell you what I have in my mind when I started at 2010 is certainly different than what I expected during COVID.
I understand.
COVID has taught me lots of lessons, self-reflection, self-awareness. The stress load that I feel for my team, and my shareholders is been a lot more than I ever anticipated as an entrepreneur.
Yeah,
it is just right down. It's heavy. It's really. I don't know how else my fellow CEOs feel like out there, but this is an incredible amount of weight. I feel an incredible strain.
And do you see it loosening? Because I'm starting to see people gather, businesses open. I mean, not at the scale I would like, but I'm starting to see some light.
Yeah, I don't know, Alec. There's the uncertainty of making decisions.
Yeah.
And right now we really can't make any decisions. What we need to do is to be the best that we can today. But you really can't make too many bets for 6 months from now, because you just don't know where this new world is going to be at, right? I mean, just look at the stock market, right? Look what happened yesterday, and then it just completely rubber banded back today.
Yeah.
There's uncertainty. So in that uncertainty and change, to humans, I mean, we don't adapt well to uncertainty and change is here.
Yeah.
It's the change to our industry mechanically is going to happen. The change to our way of life is going to happen. I'm sure your plans with your family for the summer is vastly different than any summers in the past.
So it's my 15-year anniversary on July 1st, and I was supposed to be in Japan, and then I was supposed to be into Fiji, and now I'm home.
Yeah. So what does this all mean to us as Americans, to us as humans, and then to us as mortgage professionals? You just got to grind away day by day and to sort of figure out what the new normal is, if there's a such thing as new normal, right?
Well, let me ask you this, because I know you're thinking about everything that could possibly be happening, and the talks about Fannie and Freddie leaving conservatorship has been a news article piece forever too.
Mm-hmm.
What would that do?
I welcome that. As long, my concern is an orderly transition, right? In that orderly transition, I have confidence that will happen. As you know, this has been in the discussions for 5, 6, 7 years.
It just seems like it's kind of coming to the point of being real.
Yeah, yeah, and eventually it's not a question of if, it's a question of when.
Yeah.
And as long as there's a orderly transition, I think the capital flow and the shifting of responsibilities from a public supported, government supported entity to a private entity, I think it benefits us because a private entity is profit motivated. And certainly we can drive more profits because of our scale.
And do you have any time you think this is going to be happening? Or
I don't. I thought it was going to be 2000, whatever.
2000 COVID.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Well, you mentioned a couple heavy things that you're managing that's near and on top of your heart. You have our employees who are dealing with unprecedented hardship. It's hard. Going home and having my kids tackle me in the middle of the day is hard. You've got real estate. You've got COVID as an actual pandemic. People are sick. What is your hope through all this? Where do you hope we come out of? How do you hope we come through this?
Well, I think the most important thing is for all of us, whether this is 3 months or 3 years, that all of us try to elect and find our personal joy through all of this.
Yeah.
Because it is challenging, right? You wake up and I mean, we have a lot of great things to be grateful for.
Yeah.
Health and the fact that, we are fortunate as one of the companies very early on made a commitment to hiring.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, we're one of the first made a commitment to hiring. I'm super grateful that, when I decided to kind of plug my nose and jump in the pool, and that is, geez, let's take all 7,200 of our people remote.
Yeah.
And I didn't know if I was going to see a mushroom cloud and whether we're going to have a company or not. I held my breath and I started seeing reports that, geez, not only are we not going to disintegrate, but Team loanDepot, you are kicking A.
Yeah, they're rallying.
I mean, it was incredible for me to see. And I said this last night at a dinner. I said, I'd never been lucky enough to experience what sinking a 3-pointer in Game 7 of the finals feels like. But I'll tell you, that was very, very close.
Yeah.
That was very, very close to the high that I experienced watching this incredible company of 7,000 strong working from home, breaking records.
Yeah.
And we've been breaking records every month.
Yep.
This month, we're going to break more records. And next month, we're going to break more records. And people are saying, Anthony, how are you doing? I said, I'm not doing anything. I'm at home. I can't take any credit for it. I'm at home trying to shut my dogs up while I'm on Zoom. So very, very proud moment for us. And so we have a lot of things to be grateful for. But this change and uncertainty and how long this is going to happen, and everybody's trying to make predictions of what's going to happen in the future, and that steals our joy a bit. It certainly does with me.
Yeah.
So I'm going through the same challenges.
Well, so let me ask you this, Anthony, because I love asking people on this podcast the same question. I'm curious how you would answer it. If you were sitting down in front of a brand new loan officer, just their second week in the business, they're newly licensed, and next to them is a 30-year veteran in the business, been here through a bunch of cycles, and they're looking for you for loan officer advice. What they're asking you, what do we do? What do we do to going forward? What do you tell them?
Well, this is a complicated business. Okay. So you're never going to run out of things for discussion. You will never run out of things to criticize, because we are still in a broken process, right?
Fair.
It's getting better, but it is still a pretty complicated industry.
Yeah.
And you can talk about whatever it is that you want, because it's such a complicated industry and process still. My advice, maybe it's too simplistic. My advice is pull back and just pick the right horse to ride. Someday that horse is going to run better than others, but overall, pick the right genetics and get on it and don't get off. Just look at which part of the band you want to join and stick with it. Because I don't think the industry is going to change violently the way it has in the 80s, 90s, and 2000, right? Every 10 years, there's a blow up in our industry.
Yeah.
Look what our industry just went through, and knock on wood, there was no blow up.
No.
That's incredible.
That is really powerful.
I think about it. We had no blow up. We had a few REITs that went under.
Yeah.
We had massive pressures to margin calls, and I'm dang proud of our peers.
Yeah.
We went through it. No blow up. And that's not the case in history, right? We blew up.
We blew up, and you've been cheerleading the industry with, starting the Better Together hashtag. I mean, you were calling everybody to get through it. I saw that, and I was impressed because a lot of people, we're all competitive. We all want to win. I mean, that's part of our DNA. But you were cheerleading everybody.
What we need to realize is, if a legitimate competitor falls and it makes headlines, you just took your own industry down.
Yeah.
And guess what? The consumers are used to seeing that.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Oh, here's another dirtbag mortgage company that went up in flames. So the fact that we went through this, and by no means am I saying we're out of the woods here, right? We're still in the very, very early innings because we don't know what tomorrow looks like. And that's what's creating the uncertainty and the anxiety. But I'm proud of our industry.
Yeah.
And I don't think that you're going to have a violent change in players in this chess match anytime soon. I mean, the previous guards are all gone, banks or non-banks, right?
Yeah. Yep.
I think the companies that are here today in the top 10 to top 15 pretty much are here to stay. Whether they consolidate, they get purchased or get acquired, merge. But I think very few of them will have fatalities. I think you're going to start to see market share with the top 10, 15 grow.
And do you see mergers and acquisitions they haven't really happened for a long time? Do you see those coming back?
I don't think as much for non-banks to merge. I think that's a possibility. I think there is a strong possibility that banks become interested again, and you're going to see banks acquiring non-banks because banks have pretty much exited out of this.
Yeah, they really have positioned themselves around it. Well, Anthony, this has been a super fast 30 minutes. I want to ask you this.
Are we done?
No,
I'm just getting warmed up.
We're not done. But where I want to go on this is, what message do you have for the industry? What do you want to tell your peers? What do you want to tell your employees? It's a time when people are looking for leadership. What do you want to share with them?
I think overall, just make sure what you're doing is purposeful. We're doing great good right now for society, for our industry, for housing, and we all need to find the joy in that. It's been hard. It's been hard working out at your house, right? And I know a lot of people like the fact that there's no more traffic and there's no more fighting for parking and no doubt. But gosh darn it, I miss going to work.
Yeah,
I miss going to work. Going to work these days is opening up your laptop, get on Zoom or WebEx, and that's fine. And I don't think that's going to leave us. But I think a blend of both is going to happen sometime in the future. So I'm proud of our industry. I'm extremely proud of our team, and I will never forget those 72 hours where we went remote and I didn't know what was going to happen. I mean, it's not a drill.
Yeah.
This is not a drill.
It's not a practice run.
No.
Like we get to redo that.
Yeah. And I just watched it and it was just, it was unbelievable. I will never, ever forget that feeling. It was terror. It was terror.
Well, Anthony, from everybody that's been commenting, man, there's a lot of it going on right now. This has been really fun. I want to thank you first and foremost for continuing to be out in front. It's hard for people to get on camera. It's hard for people to show up, send out messages, declare who we are and lead in that kind of vulnerability, in that kind of out in front space. And you're one of the few leaders in the industry doing it. And it's really encouraging because I know you heard this before, but it gives a lot of us a chance to do it behind you.
I appreciate it, but it's all the team. It's folks like you, Alec, and our leadership team. Like I said, I didn't do anything but stay home. And I just watched this company do amazing things. And that comes from the heart.
Yeah.
I was at home. Keep in mind that we're breaking all these records I'm at home. I've done nothing other than just say go.
But it's funny for everyone wondering like why this is such a big deal for Anthony. Like you have to understand, like this guy's office is in the heat of our employee-centric like hub. You're surrounded by hundreds of employees, and this is one of my funniest stories about Anthony. His entire office is basically a boardroom table. There's no desk. And I asked you one day, like, why did you took your desk out and it's just a big giant square boardroom table? And your answer was, I got sick of walking down to the boardroom every time. So I think people are like hearing you like I'm at home and they're not realizing like every day like you're in the mix of what's going on. So I can imagine how it just feels disconnected.
Yeah, well, you know, one of the things that I pride myself in is that, you know, I started in the mid 80s as a retail originator.
I love it.
And I've done every job there is under the mortgage broker, under the mortgage banker role. I've done everything. So you can't BS me. Been there, done that. I'm not as smart as in the world, but I made every mistake in mortgage banking 3 times. So at least 3 times. So you're not going to convince me otherwise. I put in my dues in this industry.
Well, I appreciate you, Anthony, and I know a lot of us do. From one guy who delivered donuts to the other. Thanks for leading the way. Thanks for being part of this conversation. I cannot wait to see where you go and where loanDepot goes and where all of us goes over the next decade plus, man. Thank you. Mikey, take us home.